What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video on the New Republic versus Caesar's legions, the bull and bear of a country born in bloody markets, and the fallout. An indigenous perspective. There's a lot in that title. But anyways, this is just I just want to talk about the New California Republic versus the Star Spangled Roman Empire, or the post Star Spangled Empire's new Roman Empire in Fallout, and discuss tactics and various kinds of post-apocalyptic phalanx formations. How many bottle caps it costs to buy a non-ice agent confiscated orange vegan smoothie in California. I'm sorry, New California's Republic. Whether Gavin Newsom will win the 2026 elections, because the U.S. will have two elections, two separate elections, two runoff elections. Whether Elon Musk will self-declare himself. He's already the techno king of Tesla. Will he self-declare as neo-feudal king of America? Will Trump declare himself Caesar of the legions of ICE, of the MAGA America One? Will California, the other West Coast blue Democratic states, and the Northeast and Minnesota secede? We're gonna find out today. We're gonna all questions will be answered in today's video. But yeah. So obviously, you don't know who that is. On the left is Renee Good, who was shot and unalived by ICE. As far as on video, as we can see, basically unprovoked, and that's been a major spark of a major flashpoint in the ongoing situation. Let's call it the situation of this United. This we got to put United in real quotes. United States. Really needs those air quotes now. Obviously, we have the police. Now, of course, I did say it's an indigenous perspective, so I'm a native Hawaiian, so it's gonna be, maybe it's a little bit different perspective than somebody who is not that. So you gotta take this with that's where I'm coming from on this. But obviously, the police of Minnesota, the police of California, right? Which is it's emblem. Obviously, there's some Fallout, the TV show and video game universe material that's interspersed with American 2025 persons and events, right? So you gotta so I apologize if this is a little bit confusing for some people. I think some of the core Silver Spook game players and core Silver Spook followers probably understand it though. But if you're just, I don't know what this is going on. When did California's signature animal, the bear, grow a second head? I don't understand. I just find it is if you don't know what a bull and a bear market is, you got to sign up for Silver Spook University by becoming a Patreon. Yeah, so that there's a lot. We're going to talk about current events a bit because we kind of got to, but also I want to kind of obviously put this into a broader perspective, a larger macro perspective as well, which it's easy to get because it is easy to get caught up in the nitty gritty of the details, the never ending the never-ending fire hose of the news cycle. The constant just bombardment with this thing and then that thing and then this event and this violent and this thing, and then it's easy to kind of just like forget. So I'm trying to open my chat computer up here. What is up, Coral and Street Cat? It's easy to get caught up. It's easy to get caught up in just the sequence of events, right? A series of unfortunate, horrifying events, and kind of lose perspective, lose the bigger picture. And I think one of the things. Okay, so obviously it's terrible that people are being rounded up, basically kidnapped in the streets in the United States, all across the country. That would be bad in any situation. That is being done by people under the Trump administration. This is being done by masked agents. That these people are obviously poorly trained, etc. All that's additional, not good. There's adding to the ungoodness of all of this, adding to the ungood unaliving of Renee Good, of course. And it's not just about her. This is about, but she, is a flashpoint, another in a series of flashpoints, a nodal point, unfortunately for her. So it's not. This is not. I'm not like celebrating this in any way. Like it's hard. It's hard. Because it is the United States. I'm not a big fan of the United States as a native wine. I mean, that's the Kanaka Maoli flag. Today is actually we're going to talk about that later, but today is actually the Onipa'a March. I'll give a quick just in case you want to learn. I have Mastodon and I have a Blue Sky, and I got presence Instagram. So if you want to learn more about that, you want to. I just really want to hear about this native, indigenous, anti-colonial discussions. I just want to hear about that. Today is actually commemoration of 133 years since the U.S. illegal overthrow of our sovereign country of Hawaii. Not unlike Venezuela, what the U.S. is trying to do vis-a-vis Europe or Canada. The U.S. trying to annex Greenland. Threatening right now, the president of the United States is currently threatening all of Europe with more exorbitant tariffs unless they give up Greenland. And of course, Bjork, who is another native person, said, well, this is terrible going from one colonizer to another. I'm not happy with. I'm a little bit with Bjork. Bjork is actually indigenous in the northern indigenous peoples up there in the Arctic Circle, or close to the Arctic Circle region. I'm not really happy with either of these colonizers. I don't really want to be. This is not a great situation under either one. That's just like a little. There's a similar indigenous perspective even up in the polar regions. Hawaii is more in the tropical. We're near the Tropic of Cancer. We're in the in the equatorial region, but it's a similar situation actually. And so if you really want that indigenous perspective, I have a thread here. U.S. Banned Hawaiian language and forcibly made us a fruit and tourism colony and a military outpost for imperialism. But we Native Hawaiians continue to resist that. I got this whole thread on that, and how Neofeud is the thread on my life as an impoverished Hawaiian social worker, STEM teacher for other poor homeless living in slums beneath billionaire mansions, refracting this through the lens of satirical cyberpunk. But it is ultimately it's about living under a U.S. various kinds of Caesars. Liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican, colonial, neo-colonial, greenwashed, pinkwashed. Now it's more like MAGA redwashed. But that's really what. So anyway, long story short. So there's that. Just a little shout out because I don't always share this other socials until the end, but yeah, you can also follow on Blue Sky, where I talked about this there. There's also a video of the entire Onipa'a March there, the 2026 march where we Native Hawaiians have gathered as we do every year to commemorate, but also to continue to resist against this imperial capitalist ongoing oppression and occupation. And also, there's also on Instagram. There's a few other places. Silver Spook Hui is a specifically account that that's just like what in terms of political active. I have multiple Instagram accounts. We have multiple Instagram accounts, but this is just one of them. And also, anyways, so that as you want to learn more about that particular aspect, then that's where you can do that on these other platforms. Okay, back to the point. Yeah, so I mean, in that sense, I actually, this is not good. Again, I'm not going to say this is good. I'm not going to celebrate, people getting shot. I don't want to celebrate people getting kidnapped or imprisoned. Just people getting unalived, just attacked by ICE or any kind of unjust agents, soldiers, foot soldiers, anywhere. I mean, that's not a good thing. Which is happening. It's happening all over Minnesota. Sorry about that. It's been happening all over Minnesota. It's happening all over, all over the United States. In California, obviously, it's been happening on the East Coast, the West Coast, all over. And that's not good. You know what also isn't good, of course, is internally, domestically violating people's rights is not good, and violating people's bodies and lands. And you know what else is not good? Externally, like in Venezuela. Kidnapping other people's leaders, right? Blowing up other people's cities, like Caracas, just blowing up innocent people there with bombs, killing people there, right? And obviously in Hawaii 130 years ago, and on an ongoing fashion, and obviously all over the Middle East, Africa, Asia, Latin America, the whole world. Like it's becoming I think what is so in that sense, right? Obviously, many Native people, African American people, African people, very many Asian people, Indigenous people around the world. I mean, whether that's Bjork in the northern parts of North America, Iceland, Greenland, Sami people, obviously Native Americans in the U.S., Native Central South Americans, or Indigenous people of Turtle Island. This is not really a new republic. This is not really a new thing, right? Depending on what circles you're around, you're going to hear either some people going, "Wow." Some people are discovering this in 2026. And then if you're in other circles, you're going to be like, oh, here's a continuation of, at minimum, centuries of illegality, unjust violence, kidnapping. What is a residential school? It's kidnapping, right? In so-called Canada. What is the boarding schools? What was the Carlisle school? What was slavery? Kidnapping people from Africa and bringing them to other, not just the United States, Brazil, all around the world. That was kidnapping, and that was also enslavement. And then it was also involved mass unaliving. And none of that was just. None of that was right. None of that was human rights. None of that was freedom. So, obviously, those people. If you're on, Black Global South circles, anti-colonial circles, Indigenous circles, online and offline, then there's kind of these two different. At least two different kind of like reactions to this. Now, of course, there's the pro, for certain MAGA, pro-Trump, conservative circles. They're not really. They're having a kind of another reaction, which is this is awesome, or this is bad because ICE hasn't done enough. Trump needs to go harder. There's like those kind of right wing influencers or extreme far right wing influencers of various kinds. That one game guy, that Asmongold person was talking about, like there needs to be more intense, more violent attacks. It's just one I just happened to accidentally, to my misfortune, come across in the gaming community because I make video games. So, but like, again, I'm not saying it's good, and it's not good. I was really recently listening to our, Black Liberation Media's Jackie Lukman, which is a good source for another perspective, a Black liberational perspective, a Black Alliance for Peace perspective, frequently, and and she was like, I have to really try to be patient with people. I have to try to to not just laugh in people's faces and say I told you so, and I'm trying to not do that, obviously. Taking a note from that. I mean, which is because it's not necessarily helpful. Even though sometimes it's shot in for the desire to feeling vindicated and frustrated with certain people that have not listened to Black Indigenous people of color and various people that have been in these kind of fights for a lot longer. It gets frustrating when you like come against people saying, I don't know what you're talking about, or la 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 la, what did you say? Free what? Free Hawaii? Free what? Free what's that place in the Middle East? The free what? Free that Native people? I can't hear you. Right? Just like at the Democratic National Convention, that was a little bit frustrating. Right? When people's rights are being violated. And then, some liberals literally had their fingers in the ears when the names of people that had been unalived by a Democratic liberal, right? I mean, that's Gavin Newsom, that's Tim Walz, right? That's the Democratic side, and the people were literally with their fingers in the ears. And now it's kind of like, well, and now you're the liberal that cried wolf, kind of. It's a little bit, it's just frustrating, obviously, but that's like, oh, you gotta help. I mean, but at the same time, it's kind of like, that doesn't mean you shouldn't help. It doesn't mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't stand up for people, even though some of these people that are now saying, this is not who we are, this can't be held to stand, this is illegal, we have to stop this, help me please, or the same people that were pretending like COVID was an ongoing massive mega problem, that was basically eugenics virus, Black Lives Matter. They kind of just doubled down on increasing the police budgets. Again, these are Democratic police. That was Minneapolis, Minnesota. Where's Renee Good? Where was she unalived in? I mean, again, I'm trying to not get too frustrated, but it's like, where was she unalived in? Minneapolis, Minnesota. What happened in Minneapolis, Minnesota? Oh, George Floyd. What did the Democrat and liberals? I mean, I'm not to put her on the spot, but and their support and Gavin Newsom and the Democratic Party, but where were the liberals during George Floyd? What did they do about that? Biden increased the police budgets substantially. Did some token kneeling in some kente cloth, and the police violence escalated. There are more arrests. There's more police murders in that time than in years previous. It didn't de-escalate. There's token platitudes for the Black lives that were supposed to matter, and it's literally in the same state. And now it's a white lesbian liberal woman that was murdered. I mean, of course, that's a totally valid thing to be. Okay, liberal, I would hope you maybe move a little bit in the politics, but I mean, you could be a white upper class lesbian woman. That's totally valid, right? But it's like some people in this moment are saying, I've never been to a protest. I didn't go to any protest. I don't do any political action. I don't do any of that stuff. But I don't like this in my city. This just can't happen, And it's like, so you haven't been active. You haven't done anything. You haven't lifted a finger for Black lives. You haven't lifted a finger for the imperial capitalist structure, which you benefit from as a middle or upper middle class white liberal. So you haven't done anything. Of course they don't do much of anything. Of course they don't, except for little token stuff. Anyway. So what I'm trying to say is that's a, I'm from an indigenous perspective, right? Because these people tend to be the ones that they're in Hawaii. Democratic Party runs Hawaii, unfortunately, for us. These are the kind of people that steal our land, and they say they care about Hawaiians. And they buy up, and they have 500, some of them have like 1, 2, or some 500, 600 apartments, units in Hawaii, on Maui, on Big Island, on Oahu. Part of the reason why I made Neofeud. These moderate white liberals in the Democratic Party. Why I made Neofeud, because that's why I have to work with underserved, at-risk children living in a van, eating spoonfuls of peanut butter while I was working on that video game about the problems of the police industrial complex that the liberals also co-funded with the Republicans, about the capitalist structure, about a neo-feudal society where corporations and the ultra-rich become essentially emperors or kings or techno-kings or neo-feudal kings. And it's the liberals, that's King Warren Clinton Bush, and Neofeud is symbolized by that. So anyways, so it's a little bit like, but I have to also be patient, because it's like, it's if some of those people are gonna go, I'm so sorry, Silver Spook, that I I was a Karen, and I was kind of like, I'm not to say what Renee Good, not to say if Renee Good did or did not call the cops, and what if he was a Karen, but there are people that in her class who called the cops on immigrants, on brown and black people in your neighborhood in Minnesota, right, and in California, and around the United States. I'm sorry that I was one of those liberal Karens. I'm sorry that I was part of the blue MAGA. And now I see how bad it is, because I see that my upper class white liberalness, right, my upstate New York or California, Orange County blue, my blue, white, I'm a nice civil person with a good degree. I'm the Ethan Hawke character from that Obama movie, or Ethan Hawke's wife in the Obama movie, right? What is that movie called? From the early 2020s. With Ethan Hawke. Oh, Leave the World Behind. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought I could leave the world behind and just escape, with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke's characters in this movie, and just live, my little life in Minnesota or Michigan or California or New York. And I won't be political. I'll just be kind of, I'll be like Carol from Pluribus. I'll just be like a historical romance writer and have a nice house. I'll just be the child of a boomer and just like keep my parents' housing business or real estate flipping or banking. My parents are bankers. I'm like related to Jerome Powell, and I just gonna be like I'm gonna write cyberpunk, video games, which is fine. I like writing cyberpunk video games. That's fine, right? But I'm just gonna like take my parents, my banking family from New York, trust fund, and I'm just gonna make cyberpunk video games and ignore politics. And there's a lot of that class of people. That's a big chunk of I would say a lot of people that are like over 40, Gen X and Boomer. That's not extremely conservative, and there's a lot of people that are even some younger people that are like have a certain amount of privilege, but they're not like far right conservative types. That's a lot. That liberal, moderate liberal. I mean that's that's a big chunk of the U.S. And some people who were liberal are more activated in terms of resisting these systems now, right? Outside of just voting Democrat every 4 years, going to a couple actions, and then doing nothing in between. Coming out for Kamala or Biden, and then calling it a day. Calling up, even like calling up a few Elizabeth Warrens, and then calling it a day. And some of those people are, so the people who are currently actually trying to do something that is more systemic, that is going to make some more substantial actual change, or on some version of the actual left. I mean, there's not much of a large organized left in the United States, but there is a lot of people that are not necessarily that are trying to build what could be something more substantial. And they were formerly liberals. Like, obviously, our friends at Non-Compete, American Johnson is self-admitted, like, he was born into a right-wing conservative Christian family, and now he's married to a Vietnamese communist, and he's like a self-identified, I think, anarcho-communist leftist. But that was a process of like going through a whole host of experiences, right? And then being because it is an empire, it is full of disinformation, of perpetual lies, just nonstop to maintain. That's how these systems are able to maintain themselves. So we have to be patient, because it's not like everybody woke up and chose to be lied to, wherever they're from. Not everybody like chose to be born into certain levels of privilege that they have. So there's a simultaneous enraged sense of enragement, being enraged, but also like a sense of schadenfreude, or like not taking delight, but just kind of like like laughing at the "I told you so" of it all, like that. Yes, this is a fascist place. This is an oppressive, unjust place, United States. And even the Europeans that are saying, "Oh my gosh, this is so unjust," and it's like, that's a small taste. Europeans, who are worried, a lot of them, about what might happen to them in their countries, and to quote unquote their Greenland. It's not even their Greenland, but anyway, because of what Trump's doing, or Canadians, right? And it's like, Europeans, this is a small taste of what you have done to Africans, to brown and black people, and to Asians, and to people around the world, but in particular Africa. It's a very, very small taste. So, but I mean, if you're getting it now, maybe it better late than never, So in that sense, it's not, Trump again accidentally is bringing about a better world, by awakening forces in a dialectical materialism, historical, in a Marxist sense, he is causing reactions, right? The actions are causing reactions that are increasing the starkness of the contradictions. Each time he does something, right? Such as deploy all these ICE agents into various states. And so, anyway, it's up to Green Holden. So anyways, okay, let me kind of try to come back from that. That's a little bit of just like discussing the internal emotions of it. Let's come back to the events on the ground. So obviously we made several videos here. Historically, I think there's one I did actually multiple on U.S. Civil War, U.S. balkanization. Let me just go back through that real quick. You want to learn more about like some thoughts on that and where the U.S. has been going and is currently headed. But some of that is Monday morning or future Monday morning quarterbacking the collapse of empire, which I'm not saying everything is going to happen. The state of our Kirktopia, the state of our Kimmeltopia, that was from like earlier this year. One relevant one is the enemy from within, the closing ranks and the breaking of unity is probably relevant to this, as another video that we put out that discusses some of these same topics. Closing ranks, fractured unity, imperial boomerang, This is important because this was a point. Obviously, this is a picture from Pete Hegseth's address. It was the United States government, federal government's stern talking to the entire U.S. military, in which the United States federal government under the Trump administration said, "You will be fighting, you, the United States generals, you, right, the Brotherhood of Steel. You're gonna be the brotherhood of MAGA. You're Caesar's Legion now, and the Caesar's Legion, right? They're just like in the Fallout TV show. You know, there is a civil war amongst Caesar's legions or Kaiser's legions, right? There's a civil war. There's a civil war brewing in the Star-Spangled Roman Empire, and you know, you know, who is the real one? Who is the real head of America? Well, is being decided now, right? And part of the reason, right? You know, as I talked about, like, the U.S. has been arguably in a cold civil war, in a shadow civil war, in a clandestine internal conflict for a long time, right? I mean, arguably, the Civil War never really ended. This is partially the reemergence of that, the side that said, no, America is a country that unabashedly and without reservations is pro-slavery. It is pro, you know, a white supremacy. It will reestablish itself as that, right? And then the other side said, well, we're gonna not really, you know, we're not gonna be good. We're gonna keep slavery in prison as a punishment for a crime, and we're gonna drastically reduce, right, the South's, the Confederacy's, economics to maintain the power that the North has gathered. Very similar to what Britain did to the United States. It abolished slavery in an attempt to, not because it really wanted to liberate all people of the earth and black people. Right? That's not why Britain abolished its slavery. It was to stop the rise of a colony attempting to build its own power base that could break away from the empire metropole, which was Britain at that time. And so the United States North, right, was similarly wanted to actually, it was an economic attack on the South predominantly, with many individuals inside of, the U.S., black and white alike, were against slavery. But the decisions made by the United States government were not ultimately, right? The real forces have always been capitalistic, greed-based, right? Outside of a bloody market-based, money and power-based system. That's what the U.S. has always been, founded on slavery and mass unaliving of indigenous people. So around the world, and definitely in the settler colony. So Pete Hegseth's speech, which was, "You will all now fight. We have to fight the enemy within. There are dangerous forces. There are the anarchists. There are these liberals. There are these enemies of America, and you, the military, you will fight." Now, not all the U.S. military has agreed to fight that enemy within. In fact, there have been defections in the U.S. military fighting abroad. There is an admiral that refused to fight to blow up fishing boats off the coast of South America in as part of the ongoing operations in the vis-a-vis the Monroe Doctrine, right? So that actually, I would argue, that is part of the Civil War. Now, the Civil War is not necessarily, I was talking to, the Civil War is not, it's not like a all-out shooting war like the Iraq War, World War II, or the U.S. Civil War I in 1800s, right? But the war is always fuzzy. It's not have a clear line. The Vietnam War is still known as a police action. What the events in Ukraine have been called a police action. I'm not sure if they have switched that. Russia has been calling it a police action. So, like, what is called a war and what is not called, the definition of even what that is, it's always gray. And the war never starts because two sides with a million, right? A million people on each side don't suddenly say, we're going from peace to war, and then we're like the way it often is in movies and comic books and all this nonsense. there's a series of events and enwrapments, and there's slight incursions, diplomatic, failures. The economics is part of it. Just random people, like emotions and people's romantic entanglements, particularly in Europe with the feudal lords and the king, and also speaking of Europe in the West, with Helen of Troy, and powerful leaders fighting over, who is dating who. There's a game called Date Everything. There's a lot of video games that are about dating everything, but dating is dangerous. Accidentally dating the wrong Caesar or Greek oligarch or British royalty or European colonialist or American imperialists, that can cause wars. You can't be dating whoever you want to date. That's why we had strict rules in Hawaii about there had to be separation, because people who had power could use their power to push mass violence onto others. Anyway, long story short, and part of this is the venalities and the personal vendettas of the Trump administration. Trump not liking liberals, Trump not liking a lot of European leaders because of things they've said and things they've done against him. Trump not liking Hillary Clinton, Trump not liking Tim Walz, Trump not liking the Democratic Party as a whole, Trump not liking Jerome Powell, Trump not liking bankers in New York because they have a lot of the New York's wealthier, even wealthier liberal, and they're mostly liberal. The more wealthier liberal elite have always laughed at Trump. That's part of why he went Republican to begin with. If Trump could have built a base with some kind of liberal leader, he might have just done that. All right, because he's a New Yorker. He's not really he's not as dying. Like, he has to play up a lot of his, he puts on that, trucker, that red MAGA hat to appeal to that base. But, this Trump is a billionaire liberal New Yorker. Right. That's part of why he likes Mamdani, right? It's kind of right. But anyway, long story short, this is about the personal, like Helen of Troy. This is what's happening is partially about the personal desires and venalities of the rulers of the United States, which of course are oligarchs and not democratically elected leaders that do the will of the people. Trump is just one of them. Previously it was Biden, all of his corporate sponsors, and they have problems with each other. Now, Trump, the difference between Biden and Bush and Obama and all these other ones is like they all were basically towing the line of their corporate sponsors. Whereas Trump is closer to like the absolute king, or the Roman emperor in the first Gladiator movie, or that somebody who is appealing to the masses, that is like in some ways like causing bigger schisms within the oligarchy that runs empires. And so, and anyway, because I mean, Obama and Bush and George Bush Sr., H.W. Bush, Clinton, none of them threatened civil war. They just, they had slightly different policies. Clinton was impeached, for sexual harassment, but they never threatened to like actually, right, do like a really assault other sectors of the aristocratic nobility, neo-feudal ruling class. And that's not so with Trump. So that's a major difference. And anyway, so that's not what this is about. So, this is one of the important factors. Is Trump said, and his administration said, we are going to go to war. We're going to war in America. There's going to be war in the streets of America. I mean, he did say that. So people just, why is this kidding? No, but to be honest, I don't think outside of Holly, like America's Civil War is gonna be like Wild Hog Civil War. It's like Tim Allen it's like Tim Allen and Vince Vaughn, like they're like most American liberal and conservatives. The people that really are diehard real American. A lot of people that it's like BIPOC, Black Indigenous people of color, the left, anarcho-communists, socialists. People like more revolutionarily identified people, like those, they don't really identify very Americanish. They're like I'm on stolen land. I mean, I have a U.S. passport, I have a U.S. state ID, I got a U.S. driver's license, but I don't know whether they're white, black, or brown, whatever they happen to be. a lot of them don't really have a strong affinity towards the American flag, and Uncle Sam and the stars and the stripes for reasons, for valid reasons. People that really identify strongly as American, right? Again, the liberal, conservatives, like staunchly Democrat, Republican, patriotic. Like a lot of those people, these tend to be more privileged people, right? They have not been under the boot heel of an imperialist, racist, capitalist system, right? That has the price of a ambulance ride multi-thousands of dollars, right? And they're not like suffering under that because they're more privileged. They have more money for whatever reasons, accumulated assets in housing, 401k, stock, bonds, right? Owning businesses that are staffed by immigrants, people of color, right? Democrat and Republican alike. They tend to be white, not all of them, but they tend to be older, disproportionately white, disproportionately more privileged, right? Those are the people that really identify as American. Those people are not prepared to pick. I don't think, right, that Ethan Hawke's upper class NYU professor of media studies, right, and even the ICE people. These people are like poorly trained. The U.S. conservative, ultra cop, bad, quote unquote badasses. These are mostly people that they're happy to do violence. Yes, they're misogynistic. They're racist. They're anti-immigrant, but they're only going to do violence if they can get away with it. As many fascists do. That they're happy to gang up and attack someone. But if a community is, there's like the Black Panthers are out, they're not really. It's not the same Black Panthers necessarily as in the mid 20th century. But if there's a threat that if there's a lot of the community suddenly shows up, and actually they're not coming after, obviously many people have pointed out, right, for a long time now even upper middle and upper class white liberals are saying, well, they're not coming for immigrants, they're coming for us, they're coming for anybody. They're coming for anybody. If they can come for, Carol from Pluribus, if they can come for like $150,000 a year, upper middle class white woman in New York or Minnesota, no matter how far in the suburbs and the exurbs she is, they can come for anyone. I mean, that's a realization that that's being had. That's part of what Renee Good signifies, right? They're not supposed to come for us. We're the moderate white liberal. We've been doing the bidding. We've been keeping America together. We've been keeping the Pax. We've been keeping American dominion and the new rules-based liberal global order afloat for the last 70 years. Like, we are the moderate white liberals. We are the moderate white liberals. We are Malcolm X's foxes that we're worried about. But I mean, that's why we're so important. We're important to Caesar's empire. We're important to this. Right, the global. You need us, but the Trump MAGA administration is saying, well, the system used to need you, but I don't need you. I don't really need you personally. Like we're not going to pretend to be good anymore. We're not going to pretend to care. We're not going to pretend to care about people in the global south, black and brown, and decolonize. No, we're not going to push money secretly through all kind of cutouts and OAS to overthrow countries, and then pink wash and make it look like we care about them while we cause them austerity and impoverishment and war and police disappearances. We're gonna and people taking helicopter rides and people getting disappeared by brown shirts in Central South America. We're not gonna pretend to make those nice anymore. Like we used to do that for the late 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, but now we're going back to pre-World War II. We're going back to colonial times. So we don't need liberals anymore, or we don't need these kind of liberals. We need liberals to be leading things and kind of putting a nice greenwashed, pink-washed, human rights, freedom, democracy washed face on the brutality of a white supremacist capitalist colonial empire. We're just going to be a white supremacist capitalist colonial empire with colonies. We're getting rid of people that aren't white. We're not disappearing them in the night like Obama did and Biden did. The dissupport, Obama and Biden have been kidnapping kids and putting people in cages on higher numbers this whole time. Both their administrations have already outdone, both outdid Trump numbers even now, in both their terms. The difference is Trump is like, I'm going to put people in cages. I'm going to grab people on the street, and I'm going to advertise that I'm doing it, not hide it. So we don't need, and that's the plan from here on out. Right? And that's Peter Thiel's plan, and that's Elon's plan, and that's the global capitalist oligarchy's plan. Whether they like it or not, we and people around me, we've consolidated power. We're building Starlight. We're building the ultra AI global police state. Global. It's a new order that we're going to build. It's a new republic. It's not a republic. It's a new monarchy. It's a new neo-feudal Caesar empire. It's going to be the empire. We're not going to be the new rules-based order. Asterisk, right? Secretly in the bottom fine print, it's actually an empire. No, we're going to be the American empire. We're going to control the Western Hemisphere. It's going to be a white. There's the FAFSA. We're going to check to see what your actual heritage is. You can't just be white anymore. Are you Germanic? Are you Anglo-Saxon? Like, which one? Like, we're going to be white, colonial with colonies. Greenland is a colony. Canada, you might become a colony. Venezuela is going to be a colony. Like, not like a metaphorical, no, a colony. Europe, you want to be a colony? Maybe we'll make as many of you a colony as we can. We're going to be a white, colonial empire, all capitals, marching. No, I'm not saying they're going to achieve that, but that's what they don't want to pretend, But the post World War II era was, we're going to pretend like we're not that. We love everybody. We got rainbows on our Tomahawk missiles, and all our cops, when they kneel on your neck, they're all wearing the kente cloth, and then Nancy Pelosi, we're all gonna go around the world, and we'll have Goldman Sachs and billionaire bankers, CEOs, hedge fund managers, and techno. The bankers are all gonna like feed the poor and care about poverty, and the techno oligarchs from Silicon Valley are all gonna be fists in the air, going, information wants to be free internet, open source, open AI. The hilarious thing about open AI is like, I think Trump is gonna be fed up with that eventually. Be like, why are you calling it open AI? Like, stop pretending like we care about information and freedom of information and education. Just call it closed AI. Closed AI. Close that. We're not open. America's closed. Nobody's coming in. You come in here. You're not. If your skin is lighter than this, that's it. You ain't getting in. It's closed. It's the empire now. So anyway, and that's not a good. I don't think that's a long term. That's not really a good strategy. To maintain empire, the liberals' strategy. So I don't like that they maintained it, because it is an oppressive thing that's destroying the world. I don't think that Trump is going to succeed at his new quote unquote republic. But Caesar's, I don't think Caesar is going to really succeed. It's going to because empirically, in terms of the resources, the rare earths, the semiconductors, the industrialization, the economics of it, you're competing with China, BRICS, or even just China alone. Certainly China, Russia, and Iran. You don't have the economics and even the military and the resources, the ability to maintain the population that's going to keep working in the army, keep the economic ties and supply chains going to maintain such a thing. Right? If you just want to rely on hard power, it's not. For better or for worse. Mostly I would say probably for better, because it's not a great. I'm not saying that's a good world. Right? Wouldn't want to live in a world where the United States, where there's any country or any place that wants ethnic supremacy overall, that wants, right, just completely unbridled fascistic, Roman 1800s, 1600s colonial, European colonial style rule over this, over any part of the world. Even if the U.S. could only maintain North America, parts of Europe and Central South America. I mean, that's still horrible. I mean, yes, it's less than a liberal global empire, which is what the post World War II president has been. It's been a global empire with shiny happy face on it to make it seem less bad, but it's been horrible. So we can't discount that. I mean, that's like in the same way. I'm not gonna stand the police, the U.S. police, that have brutalized and harmed for racism and capitalism countless people, millions of people, including 1,000 people that are unalived every year. That's not ICE. That's not ICE. There's just LAPD, Minneapolis PD. Again, George Floyd wasn't right killed on camera by ICE. Right? He was killed on camera, innocent man killed on camera by the Minneapolis PD. So this idea that and under the Democrats, under the Democratic mayor, under Tim Walz's Minnesota. So this is not something where, again, I don't want. So I'm just trying to be like I'm not like happy with and not pro either one of these sides. I also don't want to be like, oh, that means I just hope that everyone in America just suffers and dies. I did joke on Twitch. I'm a little more direct over there. I'm a little bit more. It's like, it's like, so we'll have all the Republicans can send their ICE, and they can Trump and all the Republicans can send their ICE, and they can kidnap Gavin Newsom and get Gavin Newsom and arrest all of their oligarchs, and all the Democrats police can all arrest all of the Republicans, and then everyone who's done, they're all war criminals. Ultimately, they're all imperialist oligarchs. They all go. They can all go to each other's jails, and all the Republicans will have to eat vegan almonds from the Resnicks and do yoga, and that will be a torture for them. And all the Democrats oligarchs will have to go into Republican prison, and they'll have to eat beef and drink milk and fucking eat beef jerky. and do like that. Do like Mr. Beast's man camp or some bullshit. I'm joking. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's that is kind of like the direction things are going. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. They'll arrest all their masses before they do arrest their own people that pay the cops and ICE, which is the oligarchs. But so in that sense, it does make for like endless comedy and speculation for sure. But the goal is not to have as many people oppressed as possible. The goal is to dismantle all of that. Obviously, in case it's not clear. But yeah, so we have but I think the positive thing, if there's something positive, the silver lining is that because who Renee Good was, right? Again, she wasn't George Floyd, that's just facts. She wasn't a black man in Minnesota. She wasn't a black man that's not like a celebrity or something. She was a middle upper class white woman who was attacked, and it's not the only one. This has also happened to other people, and let's be real. It's been a nicer, better off neighborhoods have been attacked recently. It's been in a spate, but this is like the most egregious one, or the most like blatant, and that is causing, right. And then there was a response, right, from a lot of the people of her class, of the middle and upper class white liberal population. That was met only with continued brutality from the from the MAGA and Trump's administration. So that and it's that's I'm not saying that's great that people were brutalized and people are still being attacked and people are asking their the most privileged person in their friend group to do beer and coffee runs for them because everyone's scared to leave their house in Minnesota That's not great. But if that is what it takes to bring some people who were quote unquote apolitical or liberal, or people that just for whatever reason they were just like not listening to Black Lives Matter, not listening to Black Indigenous people of color, anti-colonial, anti-capitalist, left resistance, the horrible crimes against humanity being committed in the Middle East. If people who are turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to that, if now they're gonna like, oh, we have to do something, we have to resist something. I mean, if they're gonna join, then that's great. I mean, that's a positive thing. Some people aren't going to join. They're just going to keep doing what they're doing and just keep, keeping their head down and going to work and coming home and just quote unquote staying out of the quote unquote politics. I mean, ultimately everything is political. Your choice to be neutral in the face of oppression is a political choice. That's how what happened in Nazi Germany happened. Is people chose neutrality in the face of oppression, which is siding with the oppression. But sometimes, so Trump is actually kind of, in a sense, right? He's forcing everyone, or he's forcing many people to choose, right? To choose, you have to choose: are you going to be on the side of oppression or not? Because you're going to be on the side of oppression. We're not going to have a little centrist. There's not going to be like a little centrist side cart for you. If you're going to be on the side of the oppression, you got to put your swastika on. You want to be on the side of the oppression. Put your KKK hat on. You want to be on the side of the oppression. You got to take that fox smile off. You got to put on the wolf. You got to put on your war face now. You got to put on that wolf face. Okay. I want to see American flags. I want to see American flags, MAGA. I want to see that all over your car. Cowboy, you better be singing the Taylor Swift song. You better be Sig Heilin when you walk down that street. I don't care how white you are. I don't care how blonde you are. I don't care. You if you don't look white enough for Billy Bob's six pack of Adolfs, you're going. And even if so, we might have to just interrogate you just in case you aren't down for the cause. Like if you're not down for the Trump and the MAGA, if you're not down for the MAGA team cause. So that's what. This is the thing, which is that whiteness has always been a moving target, though, right? Because at one point, Irish and Catholics didn't count. Irish, Italians, Catholics just didn't count at all. People that were light skinned, or people that were white but not light enough skin didn't count. People that weren't Anglo-Teutonic didn't count. And so it's a shifting. Where exactly the line is? It's not. It's always like it's a spectrum. It's a great thing, but. Now it's being shifted. Like you people TERFs who believed, we can just throw the trans, and we can throw, some people who believe we can throw trans and we could throw certain identities out. Oh, you have too many. After the LGBTQ plus, there's too many letters, and those people, those are too much. I'm the good queer. I'm the good gay or bisexual, right? I can be part of the team. So now the time for people who believe such things, right? Because that's one thing. Where Renee Good was, I don't know everything about her identity, but I'm pretty sure she was a lesbian, right? You can't just be the good TERF now. Well, I mean, you have to be exactly the right kind of horrible. You have to be the pure. You have to come back. You have to come back to your Western origins. You have to come back to Caesar's Legion now. No, we're not accepting. We're not the big tent. The tent is going to get smaller now. The tent is going to get smaller now. The tent is going to be purified, and so those people are the ones that are now finding themselves in this crosshair, right? And of course, if a Democrat gets elected, and I don't know what's going to happen in the future necessarily, but if there's some kind of sense that I feel safe again, we also have to be careful because some people are just going to go home. Some of the people will stick it out, or some people are, I could be safe in America in my white suburb again, in my East Coast, not ghetto part of the cities of New York and New Jersey, or in California. I can go back and be safe in America again. I'm going to go back and just bury my head in a book or a TV show or go to yoga. So some not all people, but some people will do that. So we have to be tentative about that. I mean, hopefully more people will be like, I can't unsee the things I have seen, but people will do what they're gonna do, and obviously that's in the futures. But I mean, at present, we're the U.S. is still under. No, there might not be another election. That's the other thing. Like the 2024 election might be the last election America ever had. That's a whole possibility right there. And I don't hope. Whether America has elections or not, it's kind of irrelevant because democracy is never done. It's the will of the plutocracies, but it's not necessarily gonna. It's gonna be chaotic for sure. I don't know if Gavin Newsom is going to win the 2020 the next election. He is running. I think he said he hasn't like formally made an announcement, but he is trying to run for something. Or he's talking about running for president against Donald Trump. That would definitely be a two Caesars. I feel like that could really be a two Caesars moment, right? Gavin Newsom could be head of. As I brought up before, there was the West. Let me see if I can get that up here. The West Coast. Actually, before I do that, I want to bring up one more thing. Let me see if I can find that Civil War. I had a whole Civil War. I have multiple U.S. Civil War streams. I know this. I'm sure Holly's already got it. Where did I put it? Also have multiple Fallout ones. Here's the Civil War. Right next to Fallout Season 1. Fallout Season 1 video. So in the US Civil War, which is both a review of the movie but also discussing the Civil War IRL, Alex Garland postulates there could be a fracture of the United States into Texas and California. This is the weird part. Texas and California Texas and California, I think, become part of some alternate country. A lot of the northwest of the United States, everything, it's a weird line he's drawn. And southeast, like Florida and everything all along the U.S. East Coast from like Virginia all the way to like Louisiana, all the way to the southeast, that all becomes one part of America. There's a northwest, and then there's like the Loyalists. That's like a weird diagonal strip from New Hampshire, Maine, all of the 13 colonies in New England, original 13, through Colorado, New Mexico. And that's like, there's like three Americas. But it's really weird. Anyway, that's just some, like, you play too much Risk. You're British. You play games with planets, peoples for too long. You just start thinking you can cut maps up like that. Yeah, that's what they did. Risk is based upon colonialists, right? Global imperialists, wrecking and enslaving and bloodletting billions of people around the world and stealing all the resources, right? Going to Germany and carving up entire continents like Africa, which is what they did, right? So then, anyway, so Civil War is a movie that, but it's also I discussed this, like what the U.S. Civil War looks like, how the U.S. is already in a civil war, because I don't have time to probably cover all that. The U.S. has been basically in a shadow civil war since before 2020, January 6th. Actually something interesting. January is the month the U.S. really likes doing coups, right? It really likes trying to overthrow countries in January, right? The Venezuela attempted coup, not actually successful because the people are still, the government is still in control. People are not changed their stance. The U.S. doesn't have all the oil. Exxon is like, I don't even want to develop down there. Chevron, you want to, it's like, Trump had to, like, do some gangster stuff against, possibly against the head of Chevron, because Exxon was like, that's not a good investment because the U.S., we don't got control over Venezuela, we could easily waste a bunch of money developing oil that the Venezuelan people will use for the Chavista. Anyway, so the Venezuelan attack was in January. The U.S. invasion of Hawaii, the colonial overthrow of Hawaii, was in January 17th, today, right? And the U.S. coup of itself, which was a coup, it was a U.S. It was a United States doing what it has done to countries across the world, including Venezuela, Hawaii, Bolivia, et al., to itself, right? Where it had U.S. far right, backed by elements of the U.S. government, with military support. It was there were U.S. military members, Air Force, Marines, Army, and National Guard, went to the Capitol, assaulted the Capitol on January 6th. Currently Donald Trump the Trump administration has been acquitting and declaring them all innocent, right, and getting them all out of jail and back into his ranks, right? And Trump, of course, he pushed them, right, to and gave a speech and emboldened them to do this. And the United States was sacked. It's like the United States already has had a coup, right? And so that was already part of the Civil War. Now, America, as I pointed out before, part in this video, as the imperial core, as the imperial nexus, as the star-spangled Rome of the earth, of global imperial system, which was still at that time, the liberals had more power at the time, I would say. And so but the liberals is about doing the evil but appearing good, right? So if you could get away with plundering all these resources and blowing up all these countries, military-industrial complex, sucking the oil out of the Middle East, leaving all the dead bodies across that whole region, Central Asia, right, including the Central South American countries, keeping Africa and the Latin America underdeveloped as you suck them dry, bring about inhale refugees and exhale imperial fire and wash, rinse, repeat, dollar hegemony, petrodollar. That whole system was always in place, but the liberals are like, well, we're going to make it look, we're going to put a nice handsome Gavin Newsom face on it, we're going to put a nice Obama face on that. If the United States had actually, right, gone through a coup, if they had it would be an admittance of the failure to really discuss this and really to deal with it. So what they tried to do was basically, the liberals, who at that time had more influence on Google, on Twitter, on Zuckerberg, Google, all the big techs and big banking, was closer aligned with the Democrats than with Trump in that time. They cut him off from banking. They cut him off. It's similar to what actually in EU, somebody who actually tried to a judge in Europe, I think it was a French judge, who actually just tried to follow through on the arrest warrant for Netanyahu. He was cut off from banking and electronic accounts of all kinds, all of the tech and all the banking sector. And that's what happened to Trump. He was cut off from Twitter. He got his Facebook taken down, right? And they debanked him to a large extent, but not fully debanked, but they cut off a lot of his access to all these accounts, cut off all of his public access, right, to the public, right, to his social media accounts. And right, they did that in order to try to stifle. And then there's a series of lawsuits, right, and impeachments, and but I mean, ultimately he's still an oligarch, and the oligarchy still respects money and power and wealth ultimately, but it didn't want to ultimately, because there's enough people, there's enough counter money power behind Trump that he or just no desire to really start locking up billionaires, because what would the implications be if you really started to attack and bring down billionaires? Well, I mean, if one of us can go, any of us can go. So that's actually part of it. His class is a class solidarity, even though his conservative attack, it was really destructive to the global oligarchy, the global imperialist oligarchy, and the transnational elites. But anyway, long story short, so but even before this, during the George Floyd era, speaking of Minneapolis and Minnesota, during George Floyd, the rebellion, where 30 million people came out in the streets, right? Where Renee Good was shot, right? This is what Minneapolis looked like. Remember that? because George Floyd had his neck knelt on for 8 minutes and 46 seconds until he asphyxiated to death on camera by a Democrat government's police. His name was Derek Chauvin. Remember that? I don't know if people have. I don't know if the memories have drastically dwindled of late. We know, thanks to COVID and AI, and also just lack of proper education and various other. But this is what happened. There was a Floyd rebellion. 30 million is the biggest uprising still in the history of the United States. I mean, and even this wasn't enough to change the United States. What's happening now? This is, there was a No Kings rally. That was a couple of million people. I think some No Kings came out in the last couple of weeks. I'm not gonna say what that means or doesn't mean. I'm just gonna say this was the biggest, by far, still the biggest uprising in the history of the United States. Multiple, almost every city and even most towns, smaller towns, had some ongoing Black Lives Matter actions for like months and months, at least half a year, definitely the whole summer, right? What and again, this is part of like what's happening now is a lot of that the anger and the righteous valid rage at this, and it wasn't just Black people, it was people of color, it was various kinds, it was white people as well were involved in this. Trump also was a president in that time, and he ordered the police and military, and he ordered huge amounts of ammunition and weapons into DC, and he was preparing to basically order the U.S. military to attack with live, fully lethal, not less lethal. Yes, people are being shot in the eyes. It's terrible, and I've seen that people getting shot in the eyes, lost an eye, for Renee Good, or action, anti-ICE action, or action in response to the events around Renee Good. People are being, that has been happening for a long time. It was practiced on people in the U.S.'s settler colony in the Levant, which also trains the U.S. police, right? The IDF, which trains the U.S. police. And many people died in the to police, not to ICE, to police, who killed George Floyd during this time. This didn't change the United States. Didn't change the Democrats. It didn't change the liberals, or definitely didn't change Republicans. So anyway, what was my point there? But what it was Donald Trump did. But Donald Trump was worried. He did order, right, the United States to the military. He was preparing to basically start a war. And my point, and one of my important points in the Civil War, was it was actually the United States generals and U.S. oligarchs, including big tech, big banking, and the global billionaire class. They're they're those that are traitors to their countries in China and Europe and around the world, Africa, Latin America. They come like Jair Bolsonaro. They park their money and they come to the United States for power, for money and domination and crushing of their own peoples for their profits, and then they park all their investments in Wall Street. And these are all the Gulf, all the Arab countries that have traitorous governments. They all come to America. They hang out with liberal and conservative, Democrat and Republican legislators and billionaires and millionaires. But what they didn't want was America to break up, and so they pushed the generals, including Petraeus, that wrote. They basically had to stand down Donald Trump. It was a non-shooting internal civil war in the U.S. military, and on one side was Trump and any of the, because there were certain billionaires aligned with him. Peter Thiel wasn't quite as in his pocket, close on the Trump side at the time, but there were other ones, right? Trump's friend Larry Ellison was a little closer to Trump. That's why he got the TikTok deal, right? But Trump didn't have like most of the richest, most powerful people in the world. You have Larry Ellison plus Peter Thiel plus Elon Musk, right? Plus all the big tech, plus Nvidia, plus right Jensen Huang, plus this huge confluence and the whole AI bubble behind it, $20 trillion. The whole global capital system is now basically behind where behind Trump, which all of the global capitalist class, right, is basically somehow aligned in Donald Trump's tent of the big tech AI global ultra wealth class. And then there are still liberals out there, but they don't have as much pull amongst that highest class of the Wall Street crowd, right? The global capitalist class. They don't have none, but they're not what they used to be. And so Donald Trump failed. Or his attempted seizure of the United States failed, both in the summer of 2020 during the Floyd Rebellion and also in 2026. But that was technically, I would say that was internal military. There was an internal, because the military members were technically committing treason. Right? The generals who were, nobody is being tried, nobody's attacked in that way. But from either side, there was acts of treason and traitor from the Republican MAGA side, and it's still the case. Right? Many liberals say Trump should be in prison. All of his people, all those January 6 people, everyone that's behind him should all be in prison. They're all traitors to the country. They all committed treason. And I mean, from their perspective, they have an argument. From Trump's perspective, every liberal has committed treason against him. All of MAGA and all of his diehard followers. This is a large number of people, millions and millions of people. Some of them have fallen out of that camp when Trump's tariffs and his promises didn't come through. But there are still millions of people that are still on his side. And he tries to keep as many together and on his side. And some of them are not just pro-Trump. Some of them are just pro-conservative, more pro-Republican, just anti-immigrant, pro-Christian, want to go back to, Return of Kings, Peter Thiel's neo-monarchists, white supremacists, all kind of other kind of confluence of those forces. From that MAGA side, everyone on the liberal side is treasonous and traitors, and they all have to go to prison or worse. And it has been that way. And in this video, I go into this more deeply, but it has been that way. So America has been broken in that way, not fully, but there's a huge fractures in it. It's in a cold civil war. It has been at minimum for 6 years, at minimum, if not longer. Culturally, there's been differences. There's a culture war of the 80s, but actual half the country actually believing the other half is criminal, and they cannot be dealt with. They have to simply be fought. That has that level of which is all of this is ultimately it's a consensus hallucination, right? It's like in the minds of the people, right? That's like American gods. It's like it is America and its ideas and its constitution, and who you are is part of this confluence, this Venn diagram of ideologies and beliefs and narratives that's in your head. I am a liberal American, and I am the right side of history, and I am a constitutional scholar, and we are right, and I am just, and this MAGA side, this Trump and everyone behind him, they're all criminals. They're all illegal. Everything they stand for is evil, and they have to all be simply whatever. We have to do whatever we have to do to stop these people. They're enemies. They are enemies within. And from the Trump side, liberals are enemies within, or whatever is the liberal left. It's all misunderstood everywhere in the West, certainly in the U.S., but they are enemies from within. And then again, that's why Pete Higgs has said, and we're going to fight the Civil War. We're going to fight the Civil War, right? Now, of course, as I said, I don't think the conservatives or the liberals, right? Coming back to this original, right? I don't think the conservatives or the liberals, they have these ideas. Hollywood, the U.S. is very good at storytelling, right? Again, none of these people are real. Very few of these liberals or conservatives. Right. Again, and I'm talking about people who really consider themselves deeply American. Right. These tend to be, again, older and more privileged people. because all the people that are like underprivileged and various right black, brown minorities, poor, suffered under this kind of terrible Great Depression. Millennials and younger have just been screwed out of our livelihoods. A lot of them, a lot of these people, that class of people don't even deeply consider themselves. They don't really care much about America. They certainly don't want to fight for America. A lot of them, and the people that are in that, Civil War stance where we have to fight Republicans at all costs, or we have to fight the Democrats at all costs, right? They're not actually they don't have it in them to go to any kind of war. It's gonna be like Wild Hogs War. Again, it's like that's what I was talking about. It's like Tim Allen and Vince Vaughn It's like gonna be Tim Allen and Vince Vaughn like slap fighting Joe Rogan and slap fighting Jordan Peterson and Mr. Beast and what's that guy Osmond Gold or whatever his name is, right? And Ben Shapiro, None of those people have the guts and the will and the drive and the courage, right? And also they're too privileged, even still too privileged, right? To want to sacrifice their life. They'll sacrifice other people's lives, right? The liberals and conservatives and the privileged white world, they will sacrifice Filipinos' lives. They'll sacrifice Iraqis' lives. They'll sacrifice Koreans' life in the Korean War. They'll sacrifice black and brown lives from the ghetto where they send their military recruiters so they can go fight in Iraq and go fight in Libya and Syria. They'll sacrifice Hawaiian lives. They'll sacrifice black lives in Baltimore by recruiting them. They'll sacrifice some random poor white kids that are done highlighting receipts in a Texas Walmart. You can go fight in Fallujah or in Libya. But liberal and conservative core Americans, middle and upper class, right? These are professional Hollywood screenwriters. These are professional like ranch owners. They don't ranch. They're people. They wear a cowboy hat. They don't know how to wrangle a cow. These are people who, right? The trucker convoy people. These are people that own trucking industries that have Indian and brown people driving their trucks for them. Those people are not going to go out and actually, they might have 600 guns in MREs, but they're not prepared to actually die for anything. They want other people to die for them. They want other people to die for them. That's what an imperialist does. That's what a capitalist, imperialist, white supremacist does. Conservative or liberal. They want other people to suffer for their labor value, for their profits, and they want other people to suffer and die in their wars for their profits too. That's what the war is for. They want other people to shoot, and there's some sort of fascists that just relish in the violence, but fascists in the police and ICE and military who relish in the violence, they're not gonna do the violence if they have a really good chance of themselves getting killed. That's why if the police versus ICE is gonna be a slap fight too. Because if the U.S. police and if the Democrats police have to go to war with the Republican and MAGA ICE, they're all gonna run away. Because they're all coward fascists. They're all trained by fucking IDF, which is diaper babies. Okay, this is not. They got beat by people, with 1,000 times less resources, just like the U.S. and Afghanistan. Right? If the U.S. military had to go toe to toe with Russia or on the ground with the U.S. troops, the whole army at once, they run away. They fall down, just like they fell down in Vietnam. They run away screaming, just like they did in Afghanistan. I mean, the ones that went into conscious, like they unalived their own commanders, a lot of them, and they turned against their whole empire. That's what Jesse Ventura is. But a lot of the people that are just like enlisted to add notches to their KKK belts in Iraq, like American Sniper. If the American Sniper actually had to go and fight, really, and good chance he's going to die, he didn't want to do that. Chris Kyle didn't do that. He just picked off brown kids from a long range away. It's just like dropping bombs on Korea or dropping bombs on Vietnam and thinking you're some kind of tough guy, and you're just like, yeah, I got rid of some sea slurs. And yes, the Western militaries, the U.S. and historically, they're happy to unalive other people if they're mostly safe, they're in a big group attacking one protester, and they're happy to unalive as the world police people in brown, black, and Asian places from their safety. But when they actually have to, and we know this because historically that's why America don't win any wars. And so, anyway, what I'm trying to say is, inside the United States, America probably won't go into any kind of real hot shooting civil war. I mean, so which is you're lucky for many people. I certainly not, I don't think at the current state, in a dialectical sense, there's nothing is impossible. And you can't rule anything out absolutely, but given the current state, you have too many privileged people who consider themselves true Americans that are in this fight, like really care about America as a whole, right? Because they are upper middle class privileged people. And I don't think that those people are prepared to really fight such a war, right? No, they're prepared to talk a lot. They're prepared to say all kinds of things. They're going to stream. They're going to make YouTube videos. They'll make Instagram posts. They're going to write so many letters to their senator. You don't even know. They're going to do so many lawsuits. You don't even know how I'm going to fight this civil war with so many lawsuits. I'm going to vote so hard. I'm going to smash that ballpoint pen into my ballot. You don't even know how I'm going to vote Democrat next time, or you don't know how hard I'm going to vote Trump again. I'm going to wreath my Caesar so hard. We're going to win the Civil War with 1,000. The pen is mightier than the sword. 1,000 pens voting for 1,000 Gavin Newsom. So they're gonna. So So it's gonna be a wild hog civil war. It's gonna be a little sci-fi. People like riding around it's gonna be like going to the golf course. The Democrats and Republicans, they're all out of shape. So before they get to the front lines to slash each other, before Caesar's legions get to the front line, the Republican MAGA Caesars, before they get with their spears to stab the Democrats who are gonna bring they're like vegan axes to throw them at the Republicans. Everyone's gonna be so out of breath because they've been letting all the black and brown people drive all their treatler right Uber Eats deliveries for them, so they're not gonna be able to do shit. It's all gonna fall down. Anyways, I'm just joking. I'm sure there's many in shape Gavin Newsom fans. Gavin Newsom, I'm sure he goes to a very expensive privilege 24-hour fitness for upper class white people from Jordan Peele's Get Out. I'm sure that Gavin Newsom, is in very good shape. He's gonna totally beat Donald Trump in the boxing match Mortal Kombat that will decide the next president of the United States 1 and 2, which when it balkanizes. Anyways, anyways, I should probably wrap this up. But long story short, Fallout's a good TV show. I'll talk about that more, but I don't have time to do it. Fallout's a good TV show because its style of humor is very much my style of humor, and I do in Neofeud with more cyberpunk characteristics, but it's a similar style, and that I do on the stream, obviously. And so do check out that TV show just as a side note. Very good show. Episode 5. We're up to episode 5. Really good episode. The teaser has death clause, so let's say that when the U.S. Civil War breaks out between the new California West Coast versus the Northeast, another one is the Northeast Health Alliance and the East Health Alliance. You heard of this, right? I shared this previously in our more health related streams. There is a regional public health alliances, right? And just another side note. Side note also, a lot of people are sick, so there's a thing you can put on your face that really helps with that. Masking. We haven't been sick in 6 years, so it really does work. Just in case you're wondering. And obviously vaccines are also good, and the fact that the current administration is trying to just get rid of all vaccines. Apparently, they're going to experiment with hepatitis on African people. Or RFK just said that. That's I was absolutely. Don't support that. That's horrible. I'm not saying that this is, I want to say that first, because we're talking about a little bit of health. Northeast states launched a regional public health alliance, and there's also a West Coast Health Alliance, which includes it includes Hawaii, Obviously, I talked earlier in the stream about Hawaii and our native Hawaiian stance, and actually the majority of people in Hawaii. But long story short, so it's mostly. But if you look at it, it's actually most of the blue states, and this is actually a good line of where things are being drawn. Minnesota, I think, might have already been added to it. I believe Colorado might have joined, but this is another line in that Civil War because the Cold Civil War, this balkanization, the breaking of the United States, disuniting non-states of multiple Americas, which is that the Trump administration has ordered, right, this, it is totally anti-science, anti-public health take on the vaccine schedule, on health regulations in general, the funding of health, the ridiculous ideas on what Tylenol and autism. It's really, it's like, it's abhorrent health policies and democratic states. Now, there's a lot of reasons. I have problems with the big pharma. But one of the things about one of the big dividing lines between the Democrat, liberal, and the conservative, or MAGA and anti-MAGA forces, is that a lot of those states, like, they have disproportionate funding and industry that involves pharma, medicine, right, which includes vaccines as well, and also they disproportionately fund like vegetables and like non-dairy, non-beef agricultural products. Whereas in Republican states like Texas and others, there's more beef industry and dairy industry, and also more oil. And oil. So the corporate lobbying, I mean, just which parts of a capitalist oligarchy is supporting Republicans or Democrats is a bit different. I bring that up frequently because it explains a lot of these divides within that structure. And I'm not saying it's bad that this is happening, right? I mean, I wish healthcare was cheaper. And the privatized healthcare is not a great system. My case, right? That's also terrible. But like, that's part of why this is happening in this fashion, right? That's part of why this is happening in this fashion. There's other reasons. It's also this the liberal ideology, but it partially has to do with that. And so this breaking up of these blue states, right, that are closely aligned. For just another example, Johnson & Johnson headquartered in Northeast, I believe New Jersey. A lot of the biggest biotech firms headquartered in California, some of them in New York. And a lot of the big biotech firms and those kind of research firms, those are all in those regions. The salad bowl in the United States, just on the vegetables, where 70% of all the lettuce, broccoli, carrots, and other vegetables in the United States is produced like in one like region in California. Right, and that's another reason why there's a lot of like, vegetarian lifestyle and that kind of stuff is all coming out of that party and then the beef and the dairy. Like, there's actually a lot of got beef. There's like all these like got beef ads coming out, beef jerky ads, and there's a big there's a Republican push to drink milk. Like, you got milk, like I'm having milk. RFK is slurping all this milk, right? And it has to do with like where a lot of these industries are headquartered. Anyway. But there's another line in as the U.S. breaks apart, or is like forming these cracks within itself. That's part of why those lines are happening there. And I'll leave it at that. I won't say anything else more about that. But that's I think that's going to continue though. I do think that's going to continue. There are going to the direct military and police confrontations between ICE, between Democratic governments. I think the governor, right, Waltz, like ordered, and they're also attacking him personally. They're trying to get rid of the governor, Waltz, in Minnesota, put a Republican in place or somebody loyal to Trump, possibly, right? That's one of these things happening currently, and so that's what all this attacks, this propaganda about the Somali daycares, and I don't want to talk about that, but it's it's all right wing, definitely MAGA wing propaganda that was part of laying this groundwork, right, for what's currently happening. To put ICE in there, and now ICE is attacking everyone, that's ultimately the goal, is to maintain Trump loyal Caesar's Legion power, right? Because somebody pointed out, a lot of even the liberals said, "Oh, they're harming kids in these daycares." Oh, well, great. Well, bring ICE in, right? Bring ICE in. Let's clean up our streets. Let's keep our kids safe. ICE is gonna lower crime. And I mean, unfortunately, this is people are diseducated. People have not good politics in their brains and wrong information in their brains and lies in their brains, because they listen to Western media and and historically they've been brainwashed in a lot of ways. And sometimes they just choose to be ignorant, willfully ignorant of the truth. And they said, "Oh yeah, bring the ICE in and clean up our streets. Let's really stop all these fraudulent Somali daycares." And then what did they, right? And then they're, "Oh my God, I didn't mean they're coming and shoot my Renee goods though, not my upper crust, white liberals, self and friends." But anyway, either way, right? That's what's happening. So now that that's happened, that's just one. There's a direct, like the police chief and the police were in some standoff with ICE, right? And so that's a new escalation. That I think I don't think it wasn't quite as direct as in Los Angeles or in Chicago. Maybe Chicago. I think the Chicago mayor. There's a bunch of blue mayors last year that were coming out and talking about like, we are not going to allow this to happen in our cities. We're not going to. But it's actually the police were being also attacked themselves in Minnesota. It's as far as I can see. I saw the police chief coming directly and saying like, "You will not, our officers will push you out." Now, of course, it's the same Minnesota PD that had Derek Chauvin, kill George Floyd, in which that happened, right? But so that's it's entirely problematic. But if Caesar's legions, right, if Caesar's legions, right, if an empire breaks into two, because there's an internal dispute over who is the real Caesar, it doesn't make the legion under either side, right? Or one side suddenly, oh, they're all the light of the world and they're going to save us, right? So I think we have to also be careful with that. Now, of course, I also don't agree with the anti-health alliance of the Republican side is really, really, absolutely, totally wrong. The Democrats also, they're still lacking. At least some of them are there's some of the recommendations on masking and worrying about the actual transmission of the virus and not just vax and relax is slowly starting to get better, it seems like. But of course, here we're much more. Our stance is much more. We need to prevent the spread of these terrible. You can watch some of our streams that we've done historically on that topic. We have at least 10 just on viral and public health topics alone. So I would like it to be more, but I mean, if more of the liberal and Democrat group is going to start to have more internal discussions, I'm not going to be like, oh yes, and Hawaii will join the new California, new West Coast and Northeast Republic of America too, or something. That's not. I'm not saying that either. But I mean, there should be more internal discussions about like, why has this happened? Like, what has been missed, right? I mean, again, the people will say, the Democratic Party cannot be reformed, etc. I'm not going to say like what party, but like there are these regions of the United States are entering into a new phase of direct conflict with the greater United States. Right, they are losing power in the center of the United States. The global imperialism is unable to maintain. Right, again, that's another important point. On a global context, there's a global realignment. There's really a millennia or 5 centuries long pendulum swing that's happening, which is the historically colonized world is breaking free. I mean, Africa in the AES and the huge liberation happening there. And the win-win cooperation across the planet. It's all happening quietly behind the scenes. But the impact of this long process that's been building for such a long time, decades, centuries, really, at least over a century, with the rise of Asia, Africa, Latin America, and a rising multipolar world. But that also means the end of, or the diminishing of an imperial an imperial white supremacist capitalist world. However much, right, the forces currently try to cling to that. So the liberals are gonna, they're gonna have to really start to interrogate, like, those people who just want to be quote unquote apolitical. I'm just a moderate white liberal. I'm just a, I'm apolitical. I'm just a centrist. I'm just gonna vote and maybe file a lawsuit, and I'll do like a march one day. I think they're gonna be forced, because as the empire falls apart, it's gonna keep reaching and reaching, and the internal extracting wealth internally is just gonna increase, and the contradictions internally, not just in the U.S. but across Europe and in Canada, all Western first world imperialist countries, right? That are all the ones that are certainly vassals of the United States. They're all going to have to address these internal contradictions. I think. I mean, maybe it'll suddenly reverse, and oh my gosh, we're going back to it's going to be 1997 all over again, And Zbigniew Brzezinski and his grand chessboard is be like, yes, American global neoliberalism will thrive for another 1,000 years, yay, because I don't know. I doubt it. I think that the differences are going to increase. There's going to be new splits, and we just those of us who are I'm a native Hawaiian, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist. So we have to be prepared to like not be so not to necessarily turn everybody off who is coming over from a more American, a more Western, a more quote unquote apolitical perspective into, oh my gosh, I got to get more activated. We should be prepared to receive those people, but also not like just allow the repetition of the same mistakes that have been happening for how old is America? Like a little over 200 years. Not very old actually. U.S. hasn't been around that long, and we'll see how much longer it can survive. But anyway, long story short, but that's the bull and the bear market. The bull and bear of a country born in bloody markets and the fallout. I don't think we're going to have a nuclear post-apocalypse, anytime soon. Again, the thing about fallout is it assumes that, even at the highest levels, these people are much more coward. They're much more cowardly, even at the highest levels, than people I think understand. They want everyone else to think that the U.S. imperialists, that want to maintain a global empire, want everyone else to think, oh yeah, we're going to nuke you, we'll invade you at any time, right? But that's a lot of the paper tiger element, right? So I also think that keeping people in constant fear is part of how you maintain both a conservative or a liberal capitalist imperial order, keep the working classes quote unquote chastised, keeping them right under the gun, right, or under the sword and feudalism, under the Spartans' spear, the slave in Athens and in the Greek world, and so we shouldn't just like live in fear of what could happen in terms of ICE, in terms of like them starting wars, but we also we have to like be real about it, but also what I'm trying to do here is try to contextualize what is happening. It's going to be a process of continued withering of that system. They're going to keep pushing AI. They're going to keep it's terrible software. They're going to keep pushing to keep getting everybody infected. This is another interesting split factor is that the more you contract COVID, right? The Spanish flu was coincident with the rise of fascism, and the more you contract COVID, the more it damages your brain, and the more that happens, the less likely you are to be liberal, and more conservative and fascistic you become. Same thing for using AI. It degenerates the brain, and the more the brain degenerates, the more you tend, because one liberal is the more educated. I mean, again, I question the quality and what information they're learning, but the liberals tend to be college educated disproportionately on average, right? For a whole variety of reasons, and that's another fear they have, right? If education is dismantled in the United States, if mind harming viruses and artificial intelligence, right, wrecks that educated class, you don't have any voters. You don't have any people in your class anymore. You disintegrate. So that's another. I think that's another reason why they're going. We have to get more serious about the masking, controlling air filtration, right? And we have to get more serious even about AI, because like it's not good there. There's a large number of people are not actually reading and not actually learning and not actually getting educated. It's like less than 50% of any American in 2022. Like 30%, like less than 40% have read any books at all in 2022. So if you keep that trajectory, it's not going to be any liberals left. I mean, anyway, that's just another factor in all of that. That's one of the reasons why the stance is against a lot of these technologies, and the stance in the medicine is starting to shift. And obviously, I'm in the Silver Spook camp. A lot of this, you need to have your brain. Like, liberals need to have a lot of functioning brain. The left, you need to have all your brain functioning. So obviously, if people can keep shifting it, the Republicans, like, you don't need any as little gray matter functioning as possible. It makes you the maximum fascistic, right? The maximum, just total reptilian brain, just kill things that, those are bad people, they're not us, attack, right? And the conservatives want as many people, so that's why they want as many people to get infected, as many people to have low educations, especially women, just pump out more children's, just be breeders for the fascist army. And so that's another factor that's playing into the dynamics with that West Coast, Northeast, like, proto-Balkanization of the United States, like that splits, cracks happening in the central government. They're technically they're like disobeying central federal government orders with that Northeast and West Coast Health Alliance. But again, right, to actually enforce these laws, right, to actually get whole segments of a split government, a country. Like Venezuela has a split. There's a chunk of that country that sides with the United States. It's Juan Guaido side, right? So actually, a lot of countries have this. Hawaii has Hawaiians that say we're occupied, right? And so in that sense, a lot of there's a lot of different kinds of fractures, but like and just like ruptures in societies. Some countries are more solid and more together, and more able to withstand. A lot of these are caused by the U.S., like the one in Venezuela. It's not because Venezuelans are split. Most Venezuelans believe in their country, in the revolution, in their socialist path that they have built in Chavismo. And the U.S. has produced, right, this opposition which is Mr. Machado, the far right extremist who gave Donald Trump her Nobel Peace Prize. That's throwing a lot of liberals for a loop right there, because it's like, the Nobel Peace Prize is going to this great honorable woman. She's just trying to bring about women's rights into Venezuela. What? She gave it to Donald Trump? I mean, Donald Trump used his, Donald Trump used, Peter Thiel's, mind-altering brain control, Palantir ball to warp her brains. That's why she did that. Anyways, I'll stop. I gotta wrap this up. Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Long story short, if you want to help us out at the Silver Spook Cooperative, you can give us direct support at ko-fi.com/silverspook. You can also help us out at patreon.com/Neofeud. If you want, if you want more takes on, let's see, we're also on wandering.shop on Mastodon at Silverspook Games at wandering.shop, where I have some of the, I think a lot of people are like, some people are like mad at Blue Sky because I forget, they did something to do with ICE. I can't remember what it was, but they gave ICE an official account or something. So if you're not in there, I am at Silverspook Games at wandering.shop, where I have takes specifically on game stuff, Hawaii stuff, all kind of topics. But I also have this is some of the recent posts on today was Onipa'a, or commemoration of 133 years of U.S. Illegal overthrow of Hawaii and the ongoing Native Hawaiian anti-imperialist, anti-colonial resistance. So if you want to hear more about that, at Silverspook Games at wandering.shop. We're also on Instagram at Silverspook. I forgot to say, Neofeud's on sale too. I was supposed to say that. Gosh. One moment. Sorry, I'm just forgot to put that up there. At Silverspook Games at wandering.shop, and also at Silverspook Games at mastodon.social on Mastodon. Also, obviously we're on Twitter, Silverspook, Facebook, and I'm on so many platforms, a lot. But is happening here? I'm sorry. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so Neofeud is 70% off. Don't forget to go and grab it. It is a retro anti-capitalist cyberpunk adventure game. And you can also follow at Silver on Instagram at SilverSpookHui is another. I haven't posted a ton there, but that's an Instagram account that has like more our SilverSpook like Hawaii activism and education based accounts, and that has like a posts and material. There's obviously SilverSpook Games, which is like the games related stuff, and then we also have we have sites all over the place. And you can also follow Holly over here at Allergic to Blue. Let's see, at Allergic to Blue. Holly is of course partner here at the SilverSpook Cooperative. Parent with myself, an educator of our 2 kids, and also of course sharing always important information and education inside of the streams in the links. And also you can follow Holly at Allergic to Blue, and you can follow at SilverSpook Guy. Some people are on Blue Sky, so if you're on Blue Sky, you can follow SilverSpook Guy or SilverSpook Games on Blue Sky. I mean, one thing I noticed is actually Blue Sky is faster than Twitter. It seems like, which is good, and a lot of people. I mean, I'm not. It's my take on the platforms is similar to my take on the state of the U.S. and its various parties, which is like, I'm not super for any. Not like I'm like super gung ho for any of them. I just like I have to deal with certain of them. Otherwise, nobody's ever gonna. Well, with the platforms, I'm on many platforms, so that people can discover things that we're doing and things that we're saying, because that's all we have. So, anyways, SilverSpook games.bsky.social or SilverSpook guy.bsky.social for personal takes on Mastodon, and of course also on Twitter and all over the place. Okay, anyways, thank you to all of our Patreon patrons for your ongoing support. Without your support, it's hard to keep doing this work, so thank you so much for that continued support here at the SilverSpook Cooperative. And I forgot to talk about Neofeud. Yeah, so Neofeud is on sale. Don't forget to grab it if you haven't yet. If you do have it, consider grabbing it also for your friends and comrades, people who need more based anti-imperialist, indigenous-made retro games inside of their Steam libraries. Neofeud is a game where a cyborg social worker for homeless robots, an ex-con robot, and an ex-trillionaire princess tried to overthrow a global system of inequality of trillionaires in floating palaces above a wastelandified Earth. And it is a game that is also, if you have a second to leave, even a very short review, it does help us get the game discovered in the Steam algorithm. So consider leaving even a short review on Steam. You can also grab Neofeud on itch.io for Windows and Mac and Linux, along with several other games. And of course, multiple short story collections and Women, which is a book by Holly about critiquing right-wing Christian culture. Anyways, it's very much critiquing conservative Christian MAGA sort of culture. So there you go. That's that. RFK's friends. Anyways, that's all for today. Thanks so much everybody for watching. Keep your Caesars, keep your Caesar headband polished. Keep your legionnaires in check. Go New California Republic. But I hope you become the indigenous land back, actually left anti-imperialist place in Turtle Island. And we'll see you next time. Sorry, I'm like, where is my exit button?